Okay. Good. Then 3, 2, 1, let's go. Faris, welcome, buddy. Hello.
How are you?
Very well. Thank you. Enjoying the Spanish summer because that's why we moved here to enjoy the Spanish summer.
So some people might regret that I was off the call from some people that came from the US all the way into Europe, and now they're reaching for having air conditioning in this heat.
I know. We are lucky because basically we are at the seaside and it's not that bad. It's not like the normal Spanish weather where you can literally do instant combustion, like 50 degrees.
So you're trying to just make me jealous, right? Actually, I'm driving over to Spain, Barcelona, to see my friend Dan in a week's time. So hopefully get to
Wonderful.
enjoy it.
I actually spoke with him during the weekend. Fun fact.
Excellent.
So,
No way.
Dan Nench, you know?
Yeah.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
Small world.
It is a small world.
Yeah. So I'm joined today by Faris Aziz. You are based in Geneva, if
I'm based in Geneva, but it's a good question to ask because you never know where I am.
Exactly. But you travel a lot, do of conference speaking, training. You are also organizing ZurichJS, a conference that we will talk about today. And you currently work as a staff engineer at Smallpdf. So welcome. I'm very happy to have you here. And in general, I skipped the question, but in your case, I think you have a very interesting background. So maybe you can tell us where did you start it from and how did you arrive at being a web developer?
This is going to be telling of my age because I always tend to avoid answering that question. Don't think I wrote my first line of code until 2019. Which whenever I say that, some people generally have a surprising reaction to the
2019.
2019.
And now you are staff developer at a very stressful job, handling payments. Incredible.
Stressful? No, because at some point you have to get used to the high stakes.
Okay.
So you learn to live with it a little bit. But
okay.
Yeah, that generally is a surprising fact for most. I didn't go to university. I don't have a bachelor's degree. I just did high school, and then I did high school in Switzerland, and then I took a gap year, and in that gap year, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I thought this computer thing could be interesting. I was used to like breaking drones and putting them back together and building stuff. I never read a really Hello World baby book or anything of the sort like that, but what ended up happening is I found my parents actually suggested this boot camp called Flatiron School, and they had a London base, they had a New York base, they had multiple of those. And what I did was I was like, you know what, if I don't really understand what I want to do in university, or if I'm going to invest 4 years into this computer science thing, why not just try out a boot camp for 3 to 4 months and see what it gives? So signed up, went into it at 18, and it was a really brutal experience. I was never the best at high school. I got really bad grades. I think I got like D in English. I'm sure like C in maths, and that was a good day. I think one of the higher grades I used to get is French for some reason, and that's a bit of a struggle these days too. I got into boot camp, and it was pretty brutal because you had to basically go through 5 or 6 modules in 3-4 months from having never written a line of code. You had like 150 hours of prep work, and it was a lot of Ruby on Rails. Then you touch a bit of Python, then you get a JavaScript, and all this coding stuff was super confusing. Went into it, failed my first module, got set back 2 weeks. So I was already like, great, this is not a fit for me. And what was the case with Flatiron is that if you failed an in-person module once, you could retake it. But then if you fail a second time, you go online. That means that any friendships you made in that cohort, not only do you get set back and they're like a different desk away, but if you fail another time, you basically lose the friends you made. And I was like, okay, this is a different kind of high stakes. And very, very fortunate from that. Past everything going forward, it was really, really brutal. And then ended up being the second last cohort to graduate before COVID hit. And then the school in London closed. So luck was peaking around that time. Ended up moving back to Geneva. And then I had nothing to do during COVID. And I was like, let me take these coding skills and do something with it. And before being a software engineer, I used to be a CrossFit trainer. And it's weird to say you had a career, previous career when you were 18 at the time,
Okay.
but I did that for quite a long time and I was trying to be a competitive athlete. And so I built an application for all the coaches that had lost their jobs
Mhm.
in COVID and the gyms had closed down. So I built this really crap application where you could put your classes in, instead of doing a WhatsApp group chat and taking cash, Stripe integration, quickly be able to put your classes up, and then you can accept payments and host classes and have attendees and whatever. And I actually made some money doing that and started just teaching and doing coaching and what I was used to, and kept on applying for jobs on the side until one job finally replied out of the 200 that I applied to, and ended up being an agency for working in the connected TV space. And my first tech interviews and my first tech job, I landed without ever having to write a single line of code in the interview process. They just like, show us your GitHub repo,
Okay.
show us what you built. This was like, what, 2020, right? So
Okay.
if you breathe in the right direction, you were going to get a job at that point. So wasn't as impressed with what I did. If I managed to do that now, I would be impressed in this
Exactly.
industry
Exactly. Especially
and
today.
in this
Exactly.
environment.
Yeah.
But they loved it. They onboarded me, and I had the most incredible onboarding experience. They're like, hey, you have 3 months. Here's a account of front-end masters.
Yeah.
Go crazy. Just
Oh,
watch
wow.
videos
Oh, wow.
and build apps and so on and so forth. And I ended up working on Alexa applications, voice applications, Discovery Plus, GCN, Eurosport for the rebrand for the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. And then the career just started catapulting from there. Like, it was a really long-winded one, but then, yeah.
If I remember correctly, I think your first job, developer wise, was in London, no? Not in
Yes.
Switzerland.
But I
Okay.
did it remotely. So I
Ah,
did,
so I see.
yeah.
I
So
see.
it was, COVID was a confusing time. No country knew the laws for like
Mhm.
really how, or nobody knew the laws for like what's working the remote working situation.
I see.
And so, yeah, I did my first 5 years of working remotely in Switzerland for London roles.
I see. I see. Now having, because I've listened to, I think, 2 or 3 previous podcasts with you, I didn't knew this part of story about you. So I think this is even more impressing, the fact that you wrote your first application 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is, and now you are handling payments, which is quite a extremely high stake job. So looking backwards, what would you say that were the things that moved the needle in your ability to get a better job, a more satisfying job? So yeah, what led that to this current success?
Being stubborn.
Being stubborn, okay.
I
Not quitting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not quitting. I seldom settled for less. Um, and I've always been one to do side project. Like, the longest side project I had actually was that original application that I built, that coaching application, or being able to do group CrossFit classes. And every time I would learn a new technology, I'd learn GraphQL, I'd learn Next.js. I kept on rebuilding that same app for 3 years, same functionality, different tech stack every single time on the side,
Okay.
to keep an evolution of my skill set, because I always looked around me as a junior engineer and I was like, how do these people do this magic? Because, like, when you're a junior engineer and you look at senior engineers around you, everything feels like magic. What are these things that they're typing into a CLI? Somebody pulled up Vim in front of me for the first time and I was like,
Yeah.
whoa,
It's
whoa, what? Like, what's going on? The
yeah.
dark arts have been employed.
Exactly.
How do you know what the right function is to pull out of somewhere? How did you know that this issue was here somewhere? This CI/CD pipeline failed, but for some reason, it's a lack of a polyfill here. I'm like, how do you know this information? And I ended up just distilling it to exposure therapy. And if you just sit in the same job, in the same scope, in the same role the entire time, your exposure ends up being limited. And so I always subjected myself to a greater amount or greater scope of exposure therapy across multiple disciplines, almost to the point where curiosity killed the cat and maybe burning
I see.
myself out to my own detriment. But I was like, I wanted to know more. I wanted to do more. I was almost, now we're AI pilled and prompting away and building stuff and getting dopamine. I used to get my dopamine from just like, the thing is passing, building, and working, and I made something that can do something. right? And
That's it.
that was the biggest trait of all. And I've carried that throughout my career, and it's come in different shapes and forms, but it's always been the same thing.
Very very interesting, especially this part of rebuilding the same application, because basically you kept by then it was very clear what the application, the logic, but you're just focusing on, okay, how I can do this from a different with a different stack, and you're actually, yeah, great. And it also not being like a toy application, not being like a hello world calculator type application to do the famous to do. Uh, it's complex enough to actually learn stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, super
And
interesting.
you have real user use cases. I think one of the craziest debugging moments I had was I was teaching a gym class, and somebody had emailed me and said that, hey, I wasn't able to sign up for a class. And I was like, how do I explain to somebody who isn't in tech what it means to open up a browser, dev tools, and what the console is and everything? So I was like, you know what? I don't know how you're reproducing this, but can you come after class
And show me.
and let's sit down? And I sat outside, and I remember having my computer open and their computer open, and I literally debugged live with a customer, with a user of the application. I was like, no, open this, open that. Oh, how did that happen? You're using Safari? Oh no, Chrome, this or whatever. And I didn't know that there was something that existed like called an observability tool, or what was Sentry, or what was, I think I called, it was something like debug bugbear or some, I had some other tool back then. And that's how I discovered that, oh, there must be a solution for this problem, because I cannot sit down with every single user and figure things out. But that's where I learned like, oh, how powerful debugging is and what
Yeah.
it's like to be on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, yeah. But believe me, you'd be amazed by seeing senior engineers of 25 years experience still doing console logs. So exactly, you learned it at a perfect moment. Um, as a follow up to what actually moved the needle and what actually mattered, now looking back in your career, would you be able to identify things that didn't add as much value? So things that were more or less time wasters.
Assuming that the company you work at always has your best interest in mind and is the sole way to grow. That is just a pit of frustration most of the time. There are incredible companies that exist, and I've had incredible managers and incredible CTOs that have grown me in ways I could not have grown myself. And that is invaluable experience. But I had this conversation with some colleagues the other day. Somebody said, we were talking about raises and promotions and so on and so forth, and one of them said that my work will speak for itself. And I was just thinking back to like 5 years ago. I was like, maybe if I had the right kind of manager, my work did speak for itself, but seldom has it ever led to promotion unless somebody's actively advocating for that. You got to take, to an extent, matters into your own hands. It's only when I became a manager in my previous role that I was like, I have so many fires to deal with. I sometimes don't even have the ability to understand what somebody's doing. And it's not because I don't care, but it's because that, or it almost led me to saying that the best compliment I can give you is that I don't think about you, because what a manager deals with is fires.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
But yeah,
indeed. Indeed. Um, Before we talk about something that's very interesting to me, ZurichJS, I have a question that I find very fun to ask people in our field these days. Uh, if you'll have to place a bet about a technology or niche that you think will gonna go big in the next couple of years, what that bet would be?
I've always struggled to place bets because I can't predict the future. I struggle to place them, and I've almost gone searching for bets. I've heard a lot of people tell me, say, invest in Rust, do Rust, Rust is the future. Invest in AI, AI is the future. Or invest in Web3, crypto, blockchain, that's the future. And those three avenues, for example, sound absolutely valid. But if I were to invest in all three, I would be mediocre at all three. And I
Exactly.
was never one to put all my eggs in one basket. And there are some
Exactly.
people that put bets and they've done very well in their career. And I look back and I was like, oh my God, if I had this crystal ball, I could have predicted what would have happened. Why did I fall behind? Almost like when Bitcoin's price is skyrocketing, I was like, oh my God, everyone told me to invest and I put the money and everything goes down. And you almost feel like you're making bets at the wrong moment. And so I almost went searching for this in the conferencing world. I've had 49 flights this year so far. I've been to around, I don't know, 15-ish conferences. And by the end of the year, I've done 20, 25, maybe 30. I can't remember exactly. And I've tried to put myself at the epicenter of all the people that are AI forward, all the people that are working. I've met the Next.js teams, the React teams, the Vue teams, the Nuxt. I've tried to meet everyone and get an opinion on where are they thinking? Where is their head at? And what I found at the end of the day, which is something that's lasted long before this AI world, is that an engineer's always been or always had to be versatile. As in, I knew nothing about the fintech industry before I got into the fintech industry. Same thing with the TV industry, same with the other industries that I've been in, because I understand how to build, I understand product, I understand engineering, and the domain comes later on. And so what I bet on is more the development of the foundational skill sets that make quality product engineers that allow us to adapt through the ever-moving industry that is software engineering, because the pace is just rolling faster, faster, faster. So how do I discern high signal, short-term small bets that allow me to move forward and almost play chess with my career rather than, throwing something, a spear, and seeing how far I can get to my end destination?
Okay, but again, I have a follow-up in this case. What are those fundamentals that matter in the long run? So what
Absolutely
are
valid.
those things that are not like, I don't literally, I don't have anything against the MCP, but in 2025, MCP was the cool thing around. Now, not so much. We don't hear about MCP all over. Maybe it has died or maybe it has become already a standard, but it's not as cool as before. But on the other side, what do you think there are fundamentals that are strong and they will still be around in 6, 10 years from now?
Understanding how systems connect. At the end of the day, a backend always has to connect to some front end, and front ends were your websites that you would build, right? Or that you currently build. And now we have generative UI, which are these maybe MCP apps that are embedded within your ChatGPT applications. They're different ways of servicing user experience or end user stuff, right? Backends are whether it's your microservices or your monolith or some server function somewhere, there's something that you communicate with, and you need to understand how all of these things connect together, and they connect in different ways. And those are surfaced as either your TRPC or gRPC or your REST or GraphQL. You have different mechanisms or different protocols for interfacing with stuff. So understanding how systems connect, super important. Next thing, how do systems fail? If a system connects, it introduces a point of failure. Understanding how different things fail is incredibly important, because most applications, unless it's a super enterprise application that you deploy individually for like 10 different customers and you're charging each of them 10, 15K per month, is going to eventually scale. And you're totally happy understanding your system's bottleneck or limiting factor by saying that, hey, we're building this for only 1,000 users a month, and that's totally fine. But the second we get to 1,001 users, it's going to crumble. And so understanding how to be pragmatic in developing a system and what all these connections you are creating and what the points of failure look like, again, very valuable skills. An MCP can fail too. Tool calls can fail too. Everything can fail. And at the end of the day, they all contribute to either a delightful or not delightful user experience, which then contributes to retention and so on and so forth. And the other skill I would say would be being analytical and critical at the same time. Are you able to consume a lot of information, understanding, do I have to go make meta-based queries or talk to the right stakeholders, X, Y, and Z? How can I consume information analytics and critically go about rationalizing different decisions other people make or different pieces of information being brought to me so that I can make high quality decisions?
I see. Would it be safe to say that, if I understood correctly your point of view, the macro is way more important than the micro. When I think about a short-term bet, is like, okay, learn Vue or React. In the end, it doesn't matter that much because they are kind doing the same thing and it's just one small part. On the other side, really understanding the architecture patterns and how system works, as you say, or exactly like having the broader view, that's something that doesn't change. So would it be safe to conclude that macro is way more important than micro?
Understanding how systems work, and then I would complement that with understanding how people work.
Okay.
And then
Nice.
then you're set in your career.
Only that. Only that. Exactly. Let's talk a bit about ZurichJS, and I'm sure that you love this subject because it's literally your child. Tell us how what ZurichJS is, and tell us the backstory, because also the backstory I think is quite fun. How did you ended up doing it?
It was never a grand scheme or grand plan of any sort. ZurichJS is the predominant JavaScript community in the Swiss German region, but actually now is the most popular, I could say, most popular JavaScript community or web community in Switzerland, which is really, really cool given that we've not been around for even 2 years. November 14th will make 2 years. And we were very humbled to have won Git Nation or JS Nation's Community of the Year for highest impact globally a couple of weeks ago. And so it's almost, there are two things to ZurichJS. One is the JS part, because a lot of people tend to fixate on that. They're like, why not Zurich TypeScript? Why not Zurich? There's Web Zurich that exists or whatever like that. The simplest answer to the naming is the meetup group was available. The meetup group was free, so we took it. We didn't think about it. I think it was originally called JavaScript Zurich, and I was like, it doesn't ring well. Let's just flip it around and make it sound nicer. And then SEO, right? You're looking for something that has a unique enough name that will pull up in the search rankings when you make a website. And I was like, you know what? This kind of worked out for us, and we didn't think much about it. We've had people that have given Laravel talks, career talks. We don't care about the stack. Bogdan and myself and Nadia were the core organizers of ZurichJS. We all love JavaScript. A lot of our careers currently run on JavaScript, but we don't care if that's how you're expressing yourself. What we love about the name ZurichJS or JavaScript is that it's almost a technology that's permeated into every space you can possibly think of. You can write your CI/CD pipelines in JavaScript, your infrastructure as code on JavaScript. Same with your CLI tools or whatever the hell you want. If you can write it, there's JavaScript that ends up somewhere. And so it ends up being an accessible and welcoming language. And that means we want everyone to have an accessible time, or an accessible experience, a fantastic time, and a welcoming experience. And that's what we aim to do, and hopefully we are achieving that. How was ZurichJS born? So I started working for Smallpdf in August 2024. This was technically my first Swiss job, weirdly enough, even though I've been in Switzerland for many, many years. I was living in Geneva. I hadn't really been to the Zurich in a long time. I was born there, but I hadn't been there in a very, very long time. And so I was like, what's the tech scene like? I need to integrate. I heard so much about Zurich is about referrals, networking, whatever. So what I did was, I think in June, I messaged somebody that was organizing the React.js group or meetup over there. I said, hey, can I talk? I'm willing to take the train all the way there, 3-4 hours. I went, I gave a talk. It was my caching payloads and other dark arts talk. Over there in the audience was Bogdan. Bogdan saw the talk. He got super excited about it, and the vibes were absolutely fantastic. And that ended up being that. Just had the meetup. Started my job at Smallpdf, and the most interesting part is that what had switched up a little bit was return to office mandate. So I was meant to be working remotely for the most part, but the policy had changed a little bit to being 3 days a week in the office. And so that's a long commute. I think the first couple of days at Smallpdf, I was staying in a capsule hotel at the airport. So I slept in a capsule, had a suitcase underneath, was going to the office, stayed there for a couple of days, and I was really trying to optimize, because train ticket plus hotels in Zurich, you're gonna rock yourself a lot of money very quickly.
I know.
Yeah, half the salary's gone there. And I didn't want to necessarily do that. And I was like, okay, how can we integrate into the community, come to the office and build a more holistic experience when it comes to coming to work? Because I would love to do more here than just come and do my day of work. Because I'm going to do the same thing, interact with the same colleagues, but I'd like to spend my evenings doing something else. So I put a random LinkedIn message out. I was like, who wants to build a community thing? I think we can do something different. I've learned something from so many communities in London and across the world. What else can we do here? Bogdan reached out and said, hey, my company's letting go of this JavaScript Zurich meetup group. You want to take it over? I'll split the cost with you. Split the cost. We set a date for November 14th. And that's it. We hosted a meetup at his office in Novu in Zurich. And we had 34 people attend.
Wow. Right from the get-go, quite impressive.
Yeah.
So basically, there are 3 people involved. You have you said Nadia, if I understood correctly, Bogdan, and yourself.
Yes, there are 3. So Bogdan and I are the 2 co-founders. Then Nadia's part of the core team too. She came later on. She came around about April of last year. And then there's also Colin that's helping us out with the conference too. And we have a lot of core volunteers and people involved, but the main 3 is Nadia, Bogdan, and myself.
I see. So just for the listeners to be clear, there are 2 different aspects. First of all, there are the weekly meetups or bi-weekly meetups.
Monthly meetups. I would be a little bit stretched.
Yeah, exactly.
Weekly.
exactly. But there is also the big conference
exactly
that's coming up in
September, 1st edition.
Okay, wonderful. We will speak a bit also about it. Tell me, how are the day-to-day operations looking like in order to organize everything? Like, what do you feel it takes the most amount of time? If you would have like a magic wand, what would you make go faster?
It's interesting because it's changed over time. Initially, we were very lucky. We've never had to find speakers. We have always had a full CFP. It was even a problem to the point that we had 3 months of backlog, which is crazy.
Wow, yeah,
even though we did monthly. Sponsors, very difficult to find.
How many speakers at a meetup? On average, 2, 3, 4?
3 to 4. We'd be packed usually with 4. So like 3 full talks and maybe a lightning talk or balance between those.
Yeah.
And each meetup lasts around about from like 5:30 p.m. doors open till around about 10 p.m. And we got a lot of people. And our peak RSVP, I think, was 114 people, where we had actually 90 people, 80 people show up. It's a lot of pizzas.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, and you have to manage everything, like finding sponsors, because again, the prices in Zurich, I know Zurich quite well, so paying 100 pizzas is not, yeah.
Take a guess. How much do you think pizza for 60 to 70 people costs?
I would say it's 10 francs a pizza. Multiply that by almost 600 francs. It would be safe to assume.
It's around 30 francs per pizza.
Okay.
And we don't give a pizza per person.
30 francs per pizza.
Yeah, around about. For around 60, 70 people, it's 800 francs. That is the base cost for pizzas.
Okay.
150 for drinks or 100 for drinks.
Yeah.
And then you have, that's venues for free. Then on top of that, you have meetup.com costs. Meetup costs around $300 per year. And you have other things like transport and whatever. You can take around about 1,000 euros to run each meetup.
Exactly. And you said that it's hard to find sponsors. It's quite challenging to... Okay. Maybe some sponsors will appear after all of your talks and everything, because
we don't have a problem anymore. We're very lucky now. Now we're in a very good place.
Wonderful.
It used to be in the beginning, because finding sponsorships is really complicated, because at the end of the day, just like, if something's for free, something else is the product. right?
Yeah.
And so if you have a free meetup and nobody's paying for that, somebody's got to pay for the pizzas. So you need to convince a company that it's worth paying for Zurich prices of pizzas for an event without making the event entirely about that company.
I see.
At the same time, you don't also want to sell email addresses, because you can have cases where I've got 30, 40 people's email addresses. Give me $500. Here are all the email addresses. They'll never sponsor again.
Okay,
And on top of that, you'll
correct.
have almost like compromised the data of people that entrusted you with it. And you don't want to necessarily do that. You want to stick to your values and not give that up. And so finding sponsorships has to be a harmony between what the meetup stands for and having the right alignment with the partner that's going to be able to support that. And so that it's not even that sponsorship takes time and is very hard. That's true. The right kind of partnership and sponsorship takes even more time, because you don't want to dilute the quality of the experience and only think short term.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, indeed. What about the conference? It will be in September. Tell us more about it.
So we September, first time conference. We're going all out on it. We're flying around 20 speakers out. We're flying some from the US, Canada, from across Europe. We are having a warm-up meetup on the 9th with some special guests from really well-known Swiss companies. So a lot of Swiss representation and a surprise speaker there too. We've got 6 workshops we're running on the 10th, which I thought was a little bit crazy, because some conferences don't even run any workshops, or some run 3. And I'm like, how am I going to fill 6 workshops? And actually all of the workshops already have signups on them. So that's really, really cool. And then the main day we have on the 11th, and then we have an after party, and the after party is going to be like a VIP exclusive, and we're having a private Zurich lakeside venue to just all go for a swim in a Zurich summer sunset, essentially, just to like call it celebrate the end of the conference. And then we'll have a hangout day with the speakers on the Saturday, just to maybe go hike or chocolate factory. We haven't figured that out yet.
Wow, super cool. All the links will be in the show notes, so definitely.
All the links and the wonderful little discounts.
Wonderful.
We do a lot to make it really reasonably priced. So
and it's definitely, especially for meeting in Zurich, super nicely priced, quite too cheap, I would say, for the value.
There's a lot of financial engineering that goes into how to make the price much, much lower. I wrote a series of posts on Twitter and Blue Sky recently around, we are able to take a 295 franc or euro ticket and essentially squeeze out 340, 350 bucks worth of value from it, based on all the currency and cost optimization and all this other stuff, by having built a custom platform to make it cheaper to attend.
That's it. Super nice. And really nice. How do you manage to do everything? Because it's quite intense. I mean, for me, just organizing some podcasts and having a family and everything is too intense, but you are on a completely different level. So how are you able to sustain all of this very intense effort?
Just like how you scale a product, you got to scale yourself a little bit, right? It's not without sacrifice. Everyone thinks that it comes without sacrifice, and I want to break that down a little bit, because anyone I've seen achieve something exceptional in life has always had to make a conscious decision of what to not bring along in that type of lifestyle. I don't get to see friends as much as I'd like to see friends, because I'm out and traveling all the time. I maybe don't get to take care of my health as much as I would love to take care of my health. Like, there's certain sacrifices that you do end up making. But a lot of it is around optimization. So I've tried to do a lot of work to make sure that I can optimize my day job. And that's not by trying to just get more done in less time or so on and so forth, but really, if I understand my scope and my work really, really well, I'm able to execute on it really, really well, and not differentiate from whatever the product vision is or so on and so forth. Can I upskill myself to make sure that I have everything that I need skill-wise to be able to do my role really effectively without learning having to be a constant constraint there? Can I optimize conferences too? Can I optimize for which days of the week that they're on? Can I have a negotiation with my manager? I work at a very supportive company, and they were able to give me extra time to be able to go to conferences. So I can take time off to do that. And that's exceptional, right? But that means you have to be able to produce an equivalent amount of value at your
Exactly.
company to be able to be granted that additional time off on top of your PTO. And then I end up being quite strategic. I used to be somebody that struggles with delegation. I have a very hard time doing that. I have awesome team members in ZurichJS that are like, hey, send me a voice note of what you need. Colin's like, I'm going to go and take it away and build something or do it. I can't handle, I don't do design. I can barely draw a stick man. I'm going to struggle with that.
Okay.
So Bogdan and Nadia, they took the website design and they ran with it. So like effective delegation is so important, because what we aim to do was, you guys work on the experience of ZurichJS. I'm going to go work on taking it to market, almost going to market, right? We've almost done no paid advertising. We spent like $500 on Reddit that went to waste. There was no conversion out of that. But all of the organic marketing has been me speaking at conferences, driving all the way to Barcelona next week so I can go to a meetup. I'm going and I am taking the thing to market myself. And that's what my role and my prerogative is. Then I have to negotiate with other people around me. What are you guys doing to contribute so that we're all taking care of our own space, right? And that's what allows me to do this stuff. I cannot do everything myself, but I can try to lead as many things without being a bottleneck. And that's what's important.
While preparing for the interview, I saw a very interesting talk given by you. If I remember, was 2025 CTJS, if I remember correctly. The talk was titled Engineering Without a Safety Net, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I got it. Super. Tell us a bit the gist of that topic, talk, because I really like the core idea.
It's every company I've worked at has had a different interpretation of what it means to safely build something, or build something with confidence. I've worked at companies where they're like, you're going to write end-to-end tests for everything, unit tests for everything. You're going to use SonarQube to validate how much unit testing coverage you have. And if it's not above 90%, the PR is not getting merged. And you'd have people try and gamify that system and so on and so forth. I've worked at companies where they're like, okay, just the core functionality is going to be unit tested. We don't do end-to-end testing. We're going to have manual QAs do regression, smoke, and sanity testing, and that's absolutely fine. Every single time a PR is rebuilt, you're going to have to go through a different set of testing or different segments, whether it's your sanities or smokes. And then I've worked at companies where they're like, we've got tens of millions of users. Don't worry about testing. YOLO.
Living la vida loca, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that broke my mind a little bit, because I'm like, how does everyone have a different interpretation of how to ship software?
Wait, when they so they had a big number of users, and at least when they released, because I worked at such a company, but we were releasing gradually. So we didn't had any testers except of the product owner. I will say that he was also working, acting as a tester, but we were releasing 0.01%. And if we would have seen things going sideways during that small release, then that meant that we broke something and we'll go back. So they were at least doing something like that, or like just going all in.
What if I told you I've worked on a platform that has tens of millions of users a month and is fully profitable, makes its share of money, and no gradual releases and multiple deploys per day, and you don't even have to have somebody review your PR, as in there's no blocking requirements except the build passing.
Okay. Then I will ask if something is not normal with them, or if something is not normal with our industry. Because
what if I told you that same platform in a given week, if you were to open the Sentry equivalent dashboard, has over 700,000 errors in a week?
Okay, then yeah.
But those aren't addressable errors. So you're not going to look at the errors. The
Okay.
platform still functions the way you need it to.
Okay.
The errors are so insignificant that it doesn't make an impact financially.
I see. Well, okay.
Now, that breaks your mind a
Yeah,
little bit, right? And then
definitely.
you're like,
Definitely.
wait,
Completely.
have I been lied to my entire life?
Yeah.
Have I been, everyone that's told me that you have to do this is a pillar of software, have they lied to me? Have we all been reading the same book and been fed the same lies? And it made me think, how do we understand confidence? How do we measure stuff that is in code coverage? What are these DORA metrics? I found there was an interesting way to correlate that. What is the fine line between manual testing, automated testing, and being able to say, hey, it's Friday at 5 p.m. Let me click merge and I can close my laptop and have a good weekend and not think about it. And I also have these, I've had an interesting experience with it. I have these questions that I ask at the beginning of workshops. And one of the questions that I ask them, because it's all about building production systems, is what's something you shipped that you thought would break but did not? Or what's something that you shipped that you think wouldn't break, but it did? And what scares you in the process? Like, is it the deployment? Do you close your eyes or do you go look at Sentry or Datadog? Is it that, is it that you don't know if the CI/CD pipeline will pass, or you have zero confidence in your code? Like, what keeps you up at night? What scares you? And what doesn't say that, hey, I'm 100% confident, click this button, boom, nothing's going to happen, right? And if we answer those questions, understand how to build a framework around navigating that, we understand how to pragmatically ship applications with confidence, not blindly follow rules or whatever we've been told.
And if you'll have to, because of course, I think there are multiple laws involved into this one, but if you'll have to pinpoint the main thing that leads to this increasing the level of confidence, what would you say? Well, the first one or two things that come into your mind.
To understand what will give you more confidence, you have to understand what isn't giving you confidence. You can't just automatically give yourself more confidence. If you understand the root cause of your fear and you're able to digest and articulate that, that is your first step to moving to building something more confidently. And it doesn't mean you have to fix something. It means that you're aware. And being aware of the trade-off is much more powerful than waiting for the trade-off to bite you.
Correct. Totally agree. And a lot of this you can also see it in the language of the engineers,
Yes.
where I think, or you
Exactly.
see a bit of hesitation, and
Yeah.
is not a certainty. Is maybe. Let's hope. Yeah.
Because we don't want to take responsibility. The easiest thing is to say that, hey, maybe it works this way. And then nobody can tell you that you gave them full confidence and you lied about it.
Correct.
So it's our safety net is that.
Correct. Totally agree. Yeah, exactly. Good. Thank you. It was a delightful and very nice conversation. I
Thank you.
enjoyed it a lot.
Likewise.
I will link both in the newsletter and both in the show notes. Also the conference link, also the discount code and everything. Before we wrap up, where can people find you?
You can find me on X, you can find me on Blue Sky, you can find me on LinkedIn. Generally, Faris Aziz or Faris Aziz 12 takes you in the right direction. And I tend to keep my DMs pretty open. So I'm always happy to hear from anyone and everyone. And sometimes I may take a couple of weeks to get back to somebody because it gets a bit flooded, but I always have the intention to respond whenever I can because I appreciate somebody's effort when they reach out.
Super. I can vouch for that because I think you replied to my email in the same day. So super. Faris, was a pleasure. Enjoy the evening and thanks a lot, man.
Ciao.
And we're out.